What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns with you as Bears Minicamp. Another one for us in the books. Just like that, Johnsy. It's
Flew by. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
It's almost the real offseason. The 6 weeks we actually get every year.
How many players do you think will be there next week? Roma Dunze already said he will be there.
Yeah.
And he said it had something to do with he's only in his second year. So do you think Caleb Williams is there next week during the voluntary portion to close out the offseason program under Ben Johnson?
I would hope so. I would want him. If it's the first and second year players, I think that makes sense. I mean, doesn't sound like Tyson Bagent's going to be there. He's got to be at the water park with the one diving board or whatever he said that they have in West Virginia.
Yeah. That doesn't sound like a water park.
No,
that sounds like a pool in Lake Forest.
We're renting out the water park, and I was like, "What's the best slide?" And he was like, there's like a diving board." Well, that's a pool.
But if you rent out a pool with all your closest friends, like just the hanging out part is the best part.
Yeah, as long as there's like a 30-pack of beer or something. Yeah.
I am assuming there will be.
Yeah. I sounds fun.
Probably multiple 30 packs. Like Busch Light? They're not drinking Busch Light. Hope they're not drinking Busch Light.
I don't know. I could see the Bajents just slamming down. We used to call those. We would call those blue smoothies back in Wisconsin.
Busch Lights would tear up your stomach. The next morning, you regretted drinking 10 or 12 Busch Lights. I remember that in college.
Our guy Matt Bowen still crushes those. That's his go-to beer.
He does.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a miss by us that we probably should have asked if Caleb was going to be there next week when Ben Johnson said it was going to be the younger guys, but I would assume so. If Rome's going to be there, you would hope so. I find it interesting they're doing that though. Basically shortens the offseason program by a week. The Bears did that last year too. Different coaching staff though. So I'm almost surprised they're doing it with the new coaching staff, but I don't know. It's a reward for the
vets. If I'm Montez Sweat, I like the idea of having minicamp earlier. So now my summer break's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
By a week. Maybe he's there next week for a day or two. Who knows?
Maybe. We'll see. But in the meantime, veteran minicamp, mandatory minicamp is in the books. Wrapped up today. We saw some passes to offensive linemen. That was fun. We're going to see any throws to Darnell Wright in the regular season because that was a pretty sick catch.
Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to get your whole rundown done first, and we could talk about all the trickery, the fun in the games?
We can start with that. I mean, we're going to get into we're going to wrap things up as this is sort of the unofficial end of the offseason program. We're going to talk about if we feel better, worse, or about the same in 5 key ingredients for the season. But we can talk a little bit about today first before we get into that. I mean, I like that was like sort of a fun way to wrap up minicamp, but also Ben Johnson being asked about it was very clear. He's like, yeah, but that was actually an evaluation. We're doing this one time and we're going to actually see who can catch. Because those offensive, look, all of these players, it doesn't matter who you are, whoever these players are, they're come on, coach, give me the ball. Or they're like, the DBs will be like, let me get a punt return. Let me get a kick return. Come on, coach. Doesn't matter what level you're playing. They're always begging you for, especially the offensive linemen. So, okay, go prove it. So and then there were a lot of drops out there.
In the moment, did you think it was something just for fun, or did you think it was something purposeful?
I actually in the moment thought it was both. I was like, oh, it's a fun way to end it, but I know Ben Johnson, and he's he was standing there looking very closely at what
yes.
these guys could do.
So my first thought was when the offensive linemen were catching the passes, oh, this is fun. They're goofing around a little bit. It's a way to get them loosened up. It's something different than, all the installs they've been doing. But then once I saw the receivers throwing balls, once I saw what they were actually, it wasn't just like fun and games. There was a little bit more scheme into it. You could actually see it on the Bears shared one of them. It was the Duvernay one to Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Seeing that, I'm like, oh, Ben Johnson's looking for his next trick play. And he's seeing who could throw the ball, who could catch the ball. He's looking like these fun and games actually have a purpose behind them.
Yeah, the part that was sort of lost in all the the good catches, the running backs were downright awful at throwing the ball.
Oh, I thought DeAndre Swift had a good one.
Okay, maybe I missed one. There were a couple of those were just like 15 yards short. Maybe I'm thinking of the wide receivers. Well,
there were some, and some of the laughter that ensued on some of the throws was.
I mean, there were some really bad passes.
Yeah, but then there was a couple like, whoa, like full spiral 40 yards down the field.
You know who had a good one? Lefty. Cole Kmet.
Yes, he did. I was waiting for you to say his name. Kind of a rope. Well, he should. He played quarterback a little bit in high school, and he was a pitcher at Notre Dame and St. Viator.
I always forget he throws lefty. That's a little something to keep in mind. And I think Ben Johnson wants us to talk about all this. I think he's assuming that Matt LaFleur and Kevin O'Connell and, all Dan Campbell, they're all listening to this. He knows they listen to this show. They're listening. They got to spend their whole 6 weeks off game planning for Cole Kmet to throw the ball to Caleb Williams.
This is why you're a professional too. This is a great segue into our first conversation point here.
It is. So
good.
So we got 5 areas on this team that we're going to talk about since this is sort of the unofficial end of the offseason program. Do we feel better, worse, or the same about these 5 areas? We're going to start with the coaching staff. We're going to start with Ben Johnson and his staff, what we've witnessed over the last few weeks. Johnsy, you feel better, worse, or the same?
Better, significantly better, I would say. And it's not just Ben Johnson. It's Dennis Allen. It's Eric Bieniemy. It's everyone on staff. Al Harris, who's already making an impact, according to my untrained eyes. He's doing some different things that I like. Antoine Randall L. This staff has, I don't know if it's just the experience of former NFL players or Eric Bieniemy's experience, Dennis Allen's significant experience, but there's a bravado to this coaching staff. And of course, this starts with Ben Johnson, but the way they're holding the team accountable this early, the yelling, the swear words, I love all that. Like the instantaneous accountability. I like that. They're on these players. I like the bravado, the swagger that the coaching staff carries itself with.
But also with all that serious stuff, you'll see, like I observed today, Caleb Williams had his arm around Antoine Randall L at the same time. And what that tells me, when you have that same, you have that accountability, you have the yelling, but then things cool off and you get the brotherhood at the same time. To me, that's a sign of trust. And that's the biggest word is trust. You got to have that trust between the players and the coaches. I agree with you. I feel better, which is crazy because I think we felt pretty good. It wasn't like there were many concerns, but even just small things like Ben Johnson being self-critical today in the press conference, saying, practices could be better. I could be communicating better. We could be running smoother. And it wasn't like he was asked to be critical of himself. He just sort of did it. So,
yeah, because there did seem to be a couple pauses in today's final practice on Thursday where he was talking to the refs. Maybe things weren't as organized or as detailed, to use one of his words, as detailed as he wanted it to be, and it starts with him.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe he was just talking about today specifically. Yeah, I think it's very, very encouraging in all areas. Like I honestly, when I think about the coaching staff right now, I can't think of one area that I'm concerned about other than the unknown, right? Because it is still a first time head coach. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be mistakes made, of course. But there isn't a single area where I was watching something or being like, that doesn't look right. Just from how things are being organized or coached, I think it's very encouraging.
I liked that, like, once you had your question to him about agitation,
Mm-hmm.
and, like, I thought, "Oh, maybe he will be more mindful of his body language and how he's handling himself out there." I was actually so encouraged to hear him scream faster at Caleb Williams in practice.
Yeah.
Faster! And we later confirmed he was talking about the reads, the progressions of Caleb Williams. You know, that was a completion to Roshan Johnson on the check down on a swing pass to the flat that went for like 10, 11, 12 yards. But I like in Ben Johnson's mind that Caleb Williams has to be faster in that moment, that he was wide open, and that could have been like a 20 or 25-yard gain for Roshan Johnson if he gets there quick enough. So I like that. I like that he didn't change once his own body language, once his own practice mannerisms became a conversation. I like that he just stayed with himself.
Well, and also wasn't that 7-on-7s at that point?
Yeah, you should be going through those progressions faster.
So he may have completed it, but if you have a real pass rush, it might have been a sack.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, get the ball out. I thought he was less agitated the last few weeks, but I also think that was because there was less to be agitated about. Like I thought the offense looked better. I thought it looked smoother. But then when there were times where he had to get on those guys, you still saw that. You still saw the same guy. So I agree with you on that one. All right, let's talk left tackle. I know this one's a little bit. There's always the asterisks on this because they're not in pads, of course. But from what you saw, mainly the rotation between Karan Amagaji and Ozzie Trapillo, feel better, worse, or about the same?
I'm going to go with about the same. Yesterday, Wednesday, I felt better about it. Today, Thursday, I'm left wondering why Caleb Williams is scrambling to his left so quickly. Sorry, to his right so quickly because pressure is coming from the left side. On Wednesday, you had Ozzie Trapillo at left tackle. Today, you had Karan Amagaji. But I know they were switching different offensive linemen in and out. I think we saw Doug Kramer playing with the ones for a little bit. Why? Like, what's going on? And I think there's been a couple of examples of that maybe throughout the practices that we've seen. Pressure coming from the left side. Sometimes Caleb is able to escape that way. Sometimes, like today, Thursday, he had to roll right, sprint right in some cases.
So I'm actually say better. More specifically, they'll probably slightly better. And in particular, it's because of what I've seen from Ozzie Trapillo. He looks, first of all, he sounds the part. Like he's, and we talked about this before. Like he sounds like he's mentally definitely up for the challenge of understanding the game of football at the NFL level. And that's very important. Two, you just look at him. I think you and I were standing there yesterday being like, that, like from behind, that looks like Kyle Long.
Yeah.
He's wearing his number. He's very big. He looks athletic. Like he looks like he fits his frame like the way he should. And yeah, it looks like Kyle Long.
It does, the way he carries his weight.
Yeah. And then the days where
Adam Johns' face. Kyle Long with Adam Johns' face.
Yeah,
Giant Johns. That's gonna be another meme.
Someone will definitely have Kyle.
Yeah, I walked myself right into that one.
Yeah. And whoever's
Kyle
making that
too.
Yeah, for whoever's making that, please tag Kyle in it because he will for sure respond to it and love it.
It's too late for a podcast. Podcast over.
No. All right. And then I just didn't see anything concerning on the days where he was with the ones.
I
I didn't
real
see anything concerning.
I really want to see what he looks like with pads on. We talked about this in the last podcast with pads on and pass pro, especially one-on-ones. But now I'm like, I want to see what he's like when he's on the move in the run game.
Yeah.
Like, what's he like in the open field against some of the smaller, faster players that are trying to get away from him? Like, can he get to him? Is he big enough just to reach them? Can he bury some of them? Now, I know some of the contact is scaled back, but I want to see what he's like in the run game.
Yeah, me too. And that'll be fun when the pads go on. Don't forget, though, that big tell from Ben Johnson the other day, though, talking about that battle and just pretty much straight up saying it's going to come down to who protects, who's better in pass protection. That's the number one
I
job
just
of
want
that
to see
position.
some pancakes though in the run game. This guy's 6'8", 300 something
Yeah.
pounds.
So, look, a lot to still be decided there. I wouldn't say that I feel great overall about the left tackle spot, but I do feel better than I did a few weeks ago because I'm encouraged that Ozzie Trapilo might actually be an option on the left side, and I don't know that I felt that way when they were trying to sell that to us shortly after the draft.
You know what I like about this, and I think it's like an underrated point. We're talking about a rookie and a second-year player in a competition. This isn't like some free agent addition that's on his third team competing against the disappointing rookie on his third season or the disappointing draft pick on his third season. This is a player in his first season, in his first mini camp, and a player who last year wasn't healthy at this time and now is. I like that I like that this competition involves two young players as opposed to two aging guys, especially when it comes to like the future and what it can mean, money wise, salary cap wise, for a position that can cost a lot of money down the road.
And remember, the incumbent isn't even in the
True.
competition yet, and he will be. That's Braxton Jones, who right now has been kind of just off to the side. We've sort of seen him popping out of the weight room a little bit during practice, getting some work in.
He should be. Like if I'm hitting him, I'm like doing my training with my eyes out the window, just to staring.
That's gotta be
squarely
tough
at
watching
those
these
two young
practices.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, the big one, the quarterback, Caleb Williams. Better, worse, or about the same?
I'm gonna say about the same. Yes, about the same. I want to say, like, just when you thought this was going to end on a great high note for him, moves the ball down the field in a situational drill, hits DJ Moore with the laser touchdown pass, something you could really talk about. Like to see him like later throw an interception when he's scrambling to his right for whatever reason on a play that just seemed off to begin with. Like, let's not force that issue. It's okay to do it in practice. I understand that. You want to test certain things and you want to test certain things in front of your new head coach and your new offensive coordinator. But at the same time, like I still feel like he's holding the ball too long, especially in 7-on-7. I feel like there's a reason why Ben Johnson is screaming faster at him. And I'm okay with him being challenged at this point because I think he needs to be. He won't be good. He won't be great until he's challenged. And I think Ben Johnson's providing some of those challenges, whether it's the quizzes he's getting in the QB room or on the field with the head coach 10 yards away screaming at him.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about how he still needs to get the ball out faster. And there's a big reason why I asked him about the downfield accuracy yesterday, because that's still lacking too. That needs to get better. That being said, I am going to say better on this one too. I'm going to say slightly better. Mainly because just how sloppy things looked a couple weeks ago in the Walter Payton Center. And that was just their second overall practice as a team. And compare that, and I guess I'm talking more about pre-snap, just operation, getting the calls out, all those. Like, yeah, there were some mistakes made post-snap, including today the interception that shouldn't happen. But the overall operation, there were a couple false starts today, which you and I were talking about. Like one didn't even look like a false start. The other one, I don't know. It was a little confusing, but
Yeah.
I would just say overall, it looked like it got better over these last few weeks. And I do think that that is a sign of Caleb Williams kind of settling into the scheme, to this offense, what Ben Johnson's demanding of him. And it's such a short time. That was just a couple weeks ago. We're talking about like 9 practices. So think about when those practices stack up in July and August, how much more can get done. So I feel better.
I think, like, to add to this conversation, I'm gonna go off what Ben Johnson said the other day, where the defense was getting the better of, well, the first offense in situational drills. So I think the past 2 days were high notes for Caleb Williams, but I'm still wondering why. Like, what happened in those other situational drills? Like, why is the defense always getting the better, or why was it more frequent at this time of year? And I get it; it's harder for the offense to adjust and to have success at this time of year, especially when you get a new head coach, new offensive lineman, all the above. I get it, but I'm trying to keep the expectation level high on Caleb Williams here. So looking forward to see what he could do in training camp.
It should be high, and I think that Ben Johnson's clearly holding him to that high standard too.
Absolutely.
So, all right, how about the pass rush? So we go to defense.
So, like, here's the interesting thing about the pressure that we're talking about coming from the left side of the offensive line. The starter on that side in the team drills that we're watching isn't number 55, isn't 98. It's number 90, Dominique Robinson, a player who we mentioned, and then because of our good friend Mark Carmen, was also highlighted by Ben Johnson today as one of the 4 standouts from minicamp. So he's seeing, I think, what we're seeing, just in terms of, or we're seeing what he's seeing. Dominique Robinson has had a good minicamp. He seems to have a place, at least right now, it looks like it, in Dennis Allen's defense.
Yeah. So are you saying better?
Better. Also, like, I don't think I'm giving away scheme, but, like, they're really aggressive with these linebacker blitzes, and I like it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. So I'm going to spin it the other way, though, actually. I don't like that we're talking about Dominique Robinson being on the first team on June 5th. I'm like, where's the guy you paid a ton of money to, Dio? Where's 94, Austin Booker, who's supposed to be developing, that you traded up for last year to get? It's good Montez Sweat's been out there, but look, I love it for Dom Rob. I hope that this is a sign of things to come. And sometimes guys just do better in different schemes, and it would not shock me if that all works out. That'd be great. We've seen this before, though. Like, it looks different when the pads go on. So I actually feel worse about the pass rush.
Oh, okay.
I actually feel worse about the pass rush. I'm not terrified about it, but I feel worse than I did a few weeks ago.
So if this was a buying or selling segment, you are selling the progress of Dominique Robinson.
See, that's different. I actually think I'm buying the progress of Dominique Robinson. But I'm feeling worse about the overall pass rush because I don't know that we should be talking about how good Dominique Robinson's looking right now compared to the other guys when you consider the money that was spent on Dio Adangbo and how Austin Booker was supposed to be, coming on this year. I'm not panicked about it. I was not expecting this to be the storyline 2 weeks later, and in a weird way, it makes me feel worse.
See, I like storylines like this because I think you have a player who was a quarterback in high school.
Yeah.
I'm remembering his backstory correctly, right? He was a quarterback, played a bit receiver, switched positions a bunch at Miami of Ohio.
Yep.
Was drafted because of just, his measurables, his athleticism. And now you have a young player at only 26 years old seemingly finding something with his second coaching staff. I think it's a fun storyline.
I think it's a fun storyline too, and I hope it continues, especially when the pads go on. But we'll see. It's a big, even when the pads go on. Like we saw this with Austin Booker. He had a great preseason last year with pads on in games. And I was like, all right, let's see when the regular season starts. So there's this.
Robinson was only active in like 6 games last year.
I know, but that's sort of my point. Is like there is a huge difference between what they're doing right now and what they need to do on Monday Night Football against the Vikings in Week 1. It's just a completely different level.
Just blitz the hell out of JJ.
Yeah. Well,
you know who looks like he's a pretty good blitzer? Is Noah Sewell.
Okay. He's big. Doesn't he seem big or bigger?
Yeah. What did you make? Sorry, before we get to our last topic. Since we're on defensive players, I should say. Ruben Hippolyte, a player that we pointed out on Tuesday, was also highlighted by Ben Johnson today.
And if I don't want to misquote him, but I want to say he even singled him out as the guy who's improved the most.
Yes, I believe you have that right.
Let's see. Let me get the perfect. I thought the player we probably saw the most improvement from when he stepped in to now was Ruben Hippolyte. I thought he's done a nice job learning. He's swimming a little bit, but he's taking it seriously. Yeah, that's high praise.
Like, and you and I were talking about this watching practice. 47 is noticeable.
Yeah,
I think it helps that he's playing in TJ Edwards' spot. Like he's in that spot because TJ Edwards is not practicing. But man, does he fly around. He's extremely noticeable. He's around the ball.
I also think that's a tell that he might be the favorite to be the starting Sam linebacker. Because you usually want that guy to be back up the other spots too. And the fact that he was at Sam and then TJ gets hurt and he's the first guy to go over to weak side. Now, obviously, he's got the speed to play the position too, but I think that's an early tell that he's kind of got the leg up to me to be the third linebacker. What a story that would be. Speaking of stories, like that would be a heck of a story if like the Bears actually found like a pretty damn good linebacker in the 4th round.
A player that everybody was mad about in terms of his selection.
Well, I mean,
fans were mad about his selection.
Yeah, you're right. They were mad. I was just like, who the hell is this guy? I'm like trying to go. I mean, I take pride in all the draft work I do and the notes I have, and I'm scrambling like, what? So good for the Bears. If that's how it works out, it's still early, obviously. All right, last one. The running game. Do you feel better, worse, or the same?
Better. Because I'm going to point to another player that Ben Johnson will praise and highlight it today. The rookie Kyle Manai guy. I think like I'm just going to go back in time to like 2017 when we're first watching Eddie Jackson and Tariq Cohen play with the starters and the regulars, the guys who are going to be on your team, not just the rookies and the tryout guys, but the guys who are going to be on your regular 53-man roster. And you could tell right away that they could play. You could tell that they fit in. You could tell they have the athleticism, the talent, and the smarts and the instincts to have a role on that team. I think we're seeing it with Hippolyte, and I think we might be seeing it with the 7th-round pick running back. I really do. Now, he can't throw the ball. We saw that today. He can't throw the ball. But you know what? He's catching touchdown passes in a full team drill against the defensive starters in minicamp.
Yeah.
That's something.
No, that's a good comp bringing up 2017. Now, I thought with Cohen, it was a little different because Tariq Cohen had like a wiggle to him that was like, oh, that might be the most special on the entire field.
Yeah. And we saw some of that kind of show itself on special teams.
Right. I would say I feel about the same though. You know what though? I liked what I saw from DeAndre Swift. And just in general, I think I like West. Like it's kind of like when you're grading the pass rushers against the tackles when there's no pads on. Like you could really only count the wins as like blatant. Like, oh man, he just totally crossed his face in half a second. That was an easy win by the defensive end.
Yeah.
You know, the same thing in the running game when you're watching that right now with no pads. It's like you still see, like, we probably saw 3 or 4 plays the last few weeks where you saw a run hit perfectly, where like just the way the angles were set up and the way the running back hit it, and like all of a sudden he's 15 yards downfield through a crease that was really there. You're like, oh, okay, that was legit. That carries over. There were some good moments like that, but I don't know. I guess I just feel the same because I was never really panicked about the running game. I don't think it's going to be their strength. I also don't think it's going to be a huge weakness. I just think it's going to be something they're going to have to constantly massage throughout the year. Whether that's trying different guys behind DeAndre Swift, or maybe they got something good here with Monangai. I don't think this is a team that's going to have 1,000-yard rusher by any means, or somebody scoring 3 or 4 touchdowns in a game. I don't think that's what the Bears are going to have there. But I think with the scheme and the interior offensive line that they have, I still think they're going to be able to move the ball on the ground.
The way I will try to evaluate like run game success at this time of year, since it does favor the defense and the pads aren't on, obviously, is I try to go off the reaction of the players watching as like the plays unfolding, and you're hearing their screaming, you're hearing their yelling as they could see the play come to fruition, as certain players pull or depending on what style or run you're going through, you're seeing things develop. And I felt like there was a couple moments in minicamp where the reaction from the sideline was one of like, oh, that's gonna hit. Like they weren't saying that, but you know what I'm talking about? Like where like woo, like and you could like they can visualize it as the play's happening, as the play's unfolding. They can visualize it popping, and even more so, maybe it pops even more if the pads are on. So I thought there was a couple moments where you heard the screaming, you heard the oohs and ahs from the backups watching, from the offensive linemen watching, from the receivers watching, where you saw some of those plays potentially pop, where you saw them develop. And I think that's encouraging. And I think it's encouraging that you got to go, Joe Thuney on the left side.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's as simple as that. He's good.
The line just, it's a weird thing but you just look at them and you're like, even when they're not even playing, they're just, sometimes when they're just, because those like, especially the 4 guys we know are starters, when the 2s are in and the 3s are in, you see those 4 guys like just kind of over here. They're always talking about something, always, and you're just like, there's something about that I trust. I don't know the last time I felt that way about the offensive line.
Yeah.
And then there's Giant Johns hovering behind them.
He's there.
Looking like Kyle Long.
Crap. That's going to be a thing. What did I say?
You
feel
didn't really
good
give
about
an
it.
answer. I think you feel
slightly better. I feel slightly better because I'll go back to seeing Kyle Monangai being like, even if it's not as a runner, but him as a pass catcher, him being some type of threat in this offense to some capacity. Like I think that's encouraging that the Bears just might have found another good running back.
Yeah. Here, just to close out, let me just throw some random ones in there too, just for myself. I feel better about the Caleb DJ Moore connection. I think that's shown improvement. I feel about the same, the Caleb Roma Dunze connection. Nice sliding grab made today on like one of those jump throws that Caleb has, but I don't know if there was enough like domination there. I feel worse about Colson Loveland and Luther Burden just as the first 2 picks.
Am I the
And
only
yet,
one who saw Colson Loveland like head to the back practice fields and like
I don't know. You almost seem to catch Ben Johnson off guard with that one.
I did.
You saw it.
I
I didn't
saw it.
see it.
Yes, yeah.
I trusted you on it. I
So,
didn't.
so
I didn't
there's your update. He went with the team staff to the
Yeah.
backfields. He worked. He had the red medical jersey on, but he was still in uniform, and I thought that was an encouraging sign.
Yeah, and that's not. I don't feel any worse specifically about Loveland. We knew he wasn't going to be practicing, but the Luther Burden kind of missing this whole sort of chunk of practices is not great. So I don't know how anybody could feel better about that. What else? I will say this. I feel better about Jaquan Brisker. I liked his press conference yesterday. I liked where his head seems to be at. And I like how he played. He's all over the field. But now he's kind of always been that way. He's always been a really good player. Just stay healthy. So I don't know that I feel better about his prospects of staying healthy the whole season, but I like where he's at mentally. I love where he's at physically. He looked like the same guy, number 9 out there on the field.
How about this? Consider me curious about how this Tyreek Stevenson thing plays out.
Okay.
I like how he handled his press conference yesterday. I like that the Hail Mary, like the Bears are going out of their way to not make this a storyline. And like I almost appreciate that tactic. Like I get it. It's in the past, you're moving forward. But then there he is today making a good interception. But then there's Ben Johnson later afterwards saying, well, he's got to get down. I'm not quite sure of like the full details of that situation. I'm assuming that Ben Johnson pretty, at least in his opinion, thought he was going to be tackled or there was a tackle there and he just kept running around.
Well, I think it was an end of game situation.
So,
that interception was the end of the game. He just needs to go down.
So thank you. So the clock didn't show that at least the time wise, but
yeah, that was just my read on it. Cause I noticed too, what did they do right after that? They kicked a field goal or something. So they did something for like a play or two right after that. And then when they finally came off the field, Dennis Allen immediately grabbed 29 and was coaching him up on that.
After the interception.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what I thought it was about. I wasn't 100% sure because I agree with you. Like something with the clock or something. It didn't seem obvious at the moment. But I assume that's what it was. And then Ben Johnson confirmed that in his press conference later.
Okay. So a couple things about that then. Well, maybe that's where Ben Johnson wants things cleaned up because at least the situation was throwing us off a little bit. So
maybe
it wasn't.
Yeah.
So if it was an end of game situation, he absolutely should have gone down. But if I'm looking for a positive in this, I love that Dennis Allen's already out there. Like, don't do that. Absolutely not. So I think this Tyreek Stevenson storyline will potentially pass the Hail Mary, maybe just in terms of, maturity, finding his place, learning his role, learning what to do and what not to do. Could be a one to watch in training camp.
Yeah.
Consider me curious about how the defensive line, specifically in the interior, shakes out.
Okay. Is that curious or
good curious? Because I think Gervon Dexter might be better suited for that nose tackle role.
I agree.
And he seems to, just based off our interactions with him, he seems to think so too. Now I know this defensive line will require him to do different things, but as you said earlier in this show, like sometimes the right coaches come in at the right times with different schemes for different players, and certain players benefit from it. And Gervon Dexter, the former second-round pick, seems to be one of those right now.
And I'll tell you what, we heard from Andrew Billings today, who admitted, I mean, we've been seeing this, but and you can also just watch the Saints defenses and kind of understand this from kind of a technique standpoint on that line. And he said they're not tilting as much. They're playing more square. I think that plays towards Javon Dexter's strengths. I don't know that it plays to Billings' strengths. I think Billings can do both, but there was something about him just sort of angling and getting through a gap, even at his size, that he had like just a knack for, I thought, in the last scheme. So I'm curious as that continues to play out in this defense. It wouldn't shock me, as good as Billings is, and as much as I've talked that guy up over the last few years. I think it's obviously been a great signing, and he got an extension. It wouldn't shock me if Javon Dexter kind of slowly ends up taking over the snap count, as maybe even early in the season. I
You're
don't know.
talking about playing 65-70% of the snaps.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I guess
He's
I'm
their
agreeing
starter
with
right
you.
now. Billings isn't the starter right now.
Yeah, I'm curious like you. But I think that would be a good thing. I mean, Javon Dexter's a second-round pick who has not really found his role to be, dominant like they want him to be, and maybe this is it. So that would overall be a good thing. Yeah, I'll give you one more though. You can't get out of here without special teams.
I was about to set you up for it because I was looking for one more thing to be curious about.
Well, Tory Taylor's just been laying darts out there. I don't know if anybody's noticing that.
No, I have been. Yeah.
It's just dart here, dart there, dart there. So
It's fun to watch like his new teammates see that, like Case Keenum, like his reaction to the one that pinned like the offense, like the starting offense, like the situations they're going through. I kind of like this about Ben Johnson's practices where Tory Taylor has this booming punt on a wet and soggy day, and the punt dies. It's down like within the 5-yard line. And there's Case Keenum, like, what the hell, Tory?
It's just sometimes I don't know how he does it, but like it's like, does that ball have air in it? Because it just like stopped.
Yeah,
it didn't even like backspin. It just sort of like
went up in the air,
died,
came straight back down.
And it's like that ball can't be regulation size. Maybe he just kicks it so hard that the ball loses air in midair.
Yeah, no, that would be something.
And Cairo Santos, just Mr. Automatic.
Yeah.
From every kick I saw, I don't think I saw a miss the last few weeks. It's not like they kicked a ton of field goals, but very, very good. And Clinton, there was at least one 53-yarder in there that I took note of a couple weeks ago. So
my last thought, and this is going off something that you said earlier. Consider me curious, when it comes to what this full rookie class looks like when they're all on the field together. We've talked about Loveland, we've talked about Burden. We haven't seen a lot of them because, well, they're hurt and dealing with stuff. But there's Trapillo. He's showing some stuff. There's Hippolyte. He's showing some stuff. There's Manangai. He's showing some stuff. This rookie class, so far, so good. Very encouraging. If you're going to ask me, like, overall, just in terms of how I feel about the rookie class, I would say even better because we haven't even seen Colston Loveland and Luther Burden, the top 2 picks.
Well, yeah, if you're not going to be panicked about the fact that the first 2 guys haven't practiced, then you can spin that in a very positive way because those other guys farther down the list have looked very good. The negative way would be like, yeah, but the guys who you draft in the first and second round, they need to play.
Right. Well, one we knew.
Yeah.
The other one was an unfortunate injury during rookie minicamp.
Yeah. But to your point, if they come back healthy, get cleared, and look good in camp, which is 100% a possibility, then that's starting to look like a really good class before the games even start.
Is Shamar Turner the backup 3-tech? Is he, like, honestly, truth be told, like, has he been coming on with the second team and like in the spot of Grady Jarrett? So
that was actually be one of my, I don't want to say negative. I just haven't noticed him a ton yet. We're noticing Ruben Hippolyte. We're noticing Kyle Manungai. We're certainly noticing Ozzie Trapillo. I haven't. He's wearing number 94, right?
No.
No. That's Austin Booker. He's wearing
95.
He's wearing 95. Yeah, I haven't seen 94 or 95 flash a whole much, to be honest with you. So, all right. Well, our plan is to be back next week with at least one more episode for you. We'll hear from whoever's at OTAs next week. Probably one more session with Ben Johnson before the team hits their break. And we will also hit a break for a little bit as we normally do this time of year. But we will be back with at least one more episode for you next week before we hit our own little summer hiatus. We're looking forward to, not going to lie. But we'll miss you guys at the same time.
We'll be back.
Yeah, without doubt.
You know we will.
But one more episode next week. So nothing to worry about in the near future with that. We'll see what happens at Hallis Hall. What else comes out, we'll have covered for you, of course. Follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns show account, at Hoge and Jahns on X, Twitter, Instagram, and hoganjahns.com. All the merch, including that golf polo. Speaking of golf, I'm going to go to bed because I got to wake up and drive to Glen Ellen in the morning for our CHGO golf outing.
Nothing like waking up early to chase balls around in the woods.
Not me. I'll be fine.
Okay. Okay. I have to use my sources to get some accurate information on that.
We'll set the over under balls lost at 3.5. I haven't played a full 18 yet this year, so that'll
okay. Then I'm taking the over.
Yeah, but I've gotten better over the years at controlling it.
You just look harder for your balls.
The short game is just, I'm working less on that, so it's just kind of wavering. We'll put it all together eventually. I don't know, maybe by the time I'm 50 or something. All right. Well, by the way, I have a feeling we will see at least one Hoge Jahns polo out there tomorrow. There usually is at least one. Maybe I'll wear mine. We'll see.
Over under 1.5.
Yeah. But if you're out there tomorrow at our CHGO golf outing, please say hi. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to the weekend. Looking forward to one more episode next week with you guys here on Hoge Jahns. We'll talk to you then.
See ya.